Hey, what up YouTube? Welcome back to a new video with Rams Fan YT. Today we're going to be going over my predictions for this upcoming game week in Tier 1 to 6. Lots of exciting games going on. We've got a couple of Lancashire derbies going on. We've got a South Coast derby in the Premier League. I think there's the Bristol City versus Cardiff City, and also a load of really important games in both the National League North and the National League South at both ends of the table, and also potentially a title decider between Leeds and Sunderland. I think Sunderland very much on the outside chance. So let's get straight into it. We got Nottingham Forest travelling to St James's Park, but not the one of Exeter City in the FA Cup tonight, and I think it's going to be a pretty easy walkover for Forest. 5-0. I don't want to say it, but I don't see Exeter posing much of a threat. Into the Championship tonight, we've got Coventry City versus Queen's Park Rangers. Both of these teams are in mid-table, in that sort of. I think they're one place next to each other, 12th v 13th, both on 41 points. Coventry mildly better. In terms of only an attacking output, both got a very good defence. This is an interesting one. The form's not much to go off either. Both have lost twice and won 4 in the last 6 games. We're going to go 2-1 QPR in this one. I don't know. I just have that feeling. Derby County versus Oxford United. I'm just going to quickly check whether Eustace has actually been appointed yet. All the news circling yesterday was that he was going to. And just checking. So it doesn't seem to be anything yet. In terms of him actually going, he was said that he was set to move 19 hours ago, according to the BBC. But other than that, no official confirmation as of yet. So if he's not in by tonight, that does very significantly change it, and I don't think he'll be able to do much in terms of in his first game, even if he is in the dugout by this stage. Derby did pick up a point last time, but they're still on quite a poor vein of form, and Oxford are actually a decent team. Let us not forget as well that Oxford United are a team who came up with Derby last season, and I think they did the double over us. And also, they have Gary Rowett as the manager, which he used to manage Derby. Maybe he wants to get something over his old club. So for that reason, I am going to go for Oxford United to win 2-1. Portsmouth versus Cardiff, a game which I don't particularly want to have been happening tonight, 19th v 20th. Cardiff on the better form, but did lose their last game. Yeah, I'm going to go a 1-1 draw in this one between the two of them. Ultimately, so yeah, I can see that ending level. Watford versus Leeds. Leeds flying this season. They are the informed team in the division, top of the league at the moment. Up against Watford, which are 3 points off the playoffs, but it's looking probably quite unlikely that they're a team which would be able to make it, especially seeing they've not won the last 4 games. I'm going to go a 2-2 draw here. It is at Vicarage Road. I think Watford, low-key, could be quite a interesting team if they manage to get a point here. Norwich City versus Preston North End. Both of these teams have got a fair few draws in them. At the moment, Norwich is 11 wins, 10 draws, 10 losses, right across the board. But Preston have had 13 draws this season. I feasibly seeing this being another draw, even though it does potentially open an opportunity if Norwich win today to get into the playoffs. But I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw here. On to League One, we've got Birmingham City versus Cambridge United. Birmingham are cruising at the top of the table at the moment. They are a solid 6 points clear. Will that mean that there's a little bit of complacency coming into this game against bottom of the league, Cambridge United, who have actually not got a bad run of form? They've 3 draws, 2 losses and 1 win in the last 6. It's not quite enough, but I reckon we could see a cheeky upset here. I think there's going to be a bit of complacency by Birmingham. 1-0 to Cambridge. Blackpool versus Rotherham United. 15th place Rotherham United are travelling to 13th place Blackpool. There's not much between these two teams. Blackpool on the better form at the moment, and Rotherham have had a bit of a rotter of the season. We're going to go with a 0-0 draw here. Bristol Rovers are hosting Stockport County, and Stockport County, the informed team in the division, you'd have to say, having won the last 5 games on the bounce. Stockport have been fundamentally impressive this season. Let's not take anything away from it. Even if they end up bottling the playoffs in the end, it has been a great season for the Hatters. They're travelling to Bristol Rovers, who probably need the points a bit more, to be honest. Bristol Rovers could end up in a relegation scrap. I'm going to have Bristol Rovers to win this one, 1-0. Charlton Athletic versus Peterborough United. Charlton have an opportunity they've, in the last weekend just gone by, managed to sneak into the playoffs in 6th. They're on a good run of form themselves, having won 4 and drawn 1 of the last 5 games. It is certainly a team in form and looking at good money to be in the playoffs coming into the season at the moment. They are playing against Peterborough. But I do think, again, Peterborough might are not an easy team to defeat, and one of them ones which they could get dragged into relegation zone. They're only 4 points above Burton at the moment. So we're going to go 2-1 to Peterborough. Crawley Town versus Stevenage. The Orbiter Towns of London, as they are sometimes known. One to the north, one to the south. Stevenage in 12th, whereas Crawley in the relegation zone in 23rd. Crawley looking unlikely to be able to stay up this season. We're going to have Stevenage to win 2-1. I think it's a good team at the moment, Stevenage. They're looking very likely to end up in mid-table. If we're being brutally honest, there's all the teams, I reckon, from Barnsley down to Wigan will end up roughly in that mid-table pack in the moment. And potentially Bolton, if they continue being so hit and miss, could drop down into that mid-table. But if they were going on a run of form, then probably not. Leyton Orient are hosting Mansfield Town. Leyton Orient will be looking to get back to winning ways after being dumped down the cup by Man City, although performed exceptionally well and losing their last game in the league. But they are only 3 points outside the playoffs. They've got goal difference on their side as well. Back to winning ways here, I would assume to be the case, because Mansfield have lost the last 5 on a bounce. 1-0 to Leyton Orient against the most out-of-form team in the league, except for maybe Exeter. Both are having quite a bad run of form at the moment. And I would probably argue that any other club, Nigel Clough, would have been sacked for this opportunity, having dropped out of even being remotely near the playoffs. But we'll see. I reckon it's more unlikely than likely. Reading versus Shrewsbury. Reading have... there's 2 points outside of the playoffs, and they do have the opportunity to get into that playoffs. But I feel like there's just a bit of bottle in them. At the moment, Shrewsbury are a team which are looking at times like they could feasibly stay up. Gareth Ainsworth at the club. He is a good manager at this level. 3-2 to Shrewsbury. Into League 2, got AFC Wimbledon versus Crewe Alexandra. Both of these teams fighting at the top end of the table. I I think Wimbledon are only 3 points off the automatic promotion places. They're on a decent run of form. One of the more informed teams in the division as we speak. But Crew, they're only a point outside the playoffs. They can't be written off at this stage of the season to get into it. 2-2 draw here at Plough Lane. Barrow are hosting MK Dons. MK Dons will end up in mid-table at this rate. They are well cut adrift, 10 points off the playoffs, but they're also miles away from any danger of relegation. Barrow probably will be down there, roughly where they are now, probably around about anywhere from 18th to 20th, I think, come the end of the season. But yeah, so neither of these teams are coming in with a great sterling run of form, to be honest. If both teams could lose, I'd probably back that. I'm going to go Barrow home advantage 1-0. It's going to be a very dull, boring game. Bradford City versus Accrington Stanley. Accrington Stanley are 7 points above relegation zone. We're probably just slightly too good to go down at the moment. But Bradford, they've only lost one in the last 6 games and won the rest of them. It's looking good for Bradford at the moment. They're 2 points off the automatic zone. They can definitely hunt that down. It's an interesting title race. Well, not a title race, but automatic promotion race. I think Walsall still marginally just out towards all of the title favourites. 1-0 to Bradford City here. I think that's a fairly easy one to go for. Newport County versus Carlisle United. Carlisle are bottom of the league. Only won once and lost the other 5 in about their last 6 games in the league. Not looking good for the Cumbrian team. They're facing a Newport County who have won their last 3 games on the bounce. They're looking suddenly a bit more positive around that area. 1-1 on the go here. I think Carlisle will just manage to sneak something at Rodney Parade, but we will see. Tranmere Rovers are travelling to hosting Fleetwood Town. Tranmere are actually the worst team in League One as we speak on form. I could feasibly see them getting properly dragged into it. They're only 3 points clear, and Morecambe have a worse goal difference. It's not looking good for the Merseyside team. They're up against fellow Northwest team Fleetwood Town. Fleetwood Town being a bit hit and miss, but if they get a bit of consistency, late run to the playoffs isn't beyond the realms of possibility. I think they're quite good on their day, Fleetwood. We're going to go 2-1 Fleetwood here. Another win in the bag. Walsall are hosting Gillingham, and this is an opportunity for Walsall to get back into winning ways. They've not won any of their last 4 games, which is a good job they were so good at the beginning of the season, eh? They're having a wobble, and they need to put that right before they become under serious pressure. Where better to do that than against Gillingham, to be fair, who haven't won in the longest time. Gillingham will probably be royally defeated here. We go 4-1 to Walsall. Dagenham and Redbridge are hosting Woking. It's a very dull game, I would imagine, for this one. There's not a lot riding on it. Both of these teams are unlikely. To be fair, I don't think Woking are completely clear of relegation woes themselves. Only 3 points above relegation zone. But Dagenham and Redbridge, they're 5 points. It seems unlikely that they'd get dragged into it at this late stage. We're going to go 2-1 for Dagenham and Redbridge, home advantage. But any notion of them even getting dragged into a relegation battle well behind us. Gateshead versus Braintree. Gateshead have a bottle in them. They've not been great recently. 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses in the last 6 games. They're up against Braintree, which is actually which have the same run of form themselves. I wouldn't put it past Braintree to get a result here. 1-0 to Braintree. Hartlepool United are hosting Tamworth. They're only 3 points off the playoffs, Hartlepool, but I do think they'll end up in mid-table. They're just not consistent enough to get into that playoff positions. There's only 3 teams I can comfortably say are going to be mid-table at this stage. Hartlepool, Eastleigh and Dagenham or Redbridge. I think that's very feasible for all of that to happen. Anyway, they are at home today against Tamworth, a team which is very mid-table at the moment, actually, themselves. Tamworth's defence is just horrible. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. Oldham Athletic versus Altrincham. A bit of a Manchester derby, potentially. I don't think either side view each other as the main rivals. Oldham view Rochdale and historically Bury as their main rivals. Altrincham probably view Stockport. So yeah, this one, though, will nevertheless be a bit fierce, I would imagine. Both teams got a lot on the line. Altrincham want to stay in the playoffs. Oldham want to potentially see if they can get a seeded position, seeming unlikely, I would say. I have a 2-2 draw here, but both of these teams are well on for a good season. Southend United versus FC Halifax Town. Halifax in 6th. They've managed to get themselves into a conversation for being a proper playoff contender, currently sitting inside the playoffs. They're up against Southend, who are 6 points off the playoffs. I think it's unlikely they're going to get it. They could probably finish top half. But yeah, we're going to go 4-1 Southend here. It's a bit of a shock because Halifax have had a good run of form. But I think if you look at it realistically, I think Southend do have the edge on this one purely from home advantage reasons. It's a long way to go on a Tuesday night. Wrexham are playing Bolton Wanderers in the EFL Trophy. I'm going to go Bolton Wanderers to win this one, 1-0. Very close margins. Either of these teams, I reckon, would love to have a trophy. But yeah, 1-0 to Bolton. Alfreton Town versus Darlington in the National League North. Both of these have a half outside chance of a playoffs. It's 10th v 11th. I don't think either of these teams are hugely likely to make it at the moment. So yeah, but still, I'm going to go Darlington Winterwave 3-2. Onto a double header of Derbyshire teams hosting teams from the northeast as South Shields come to Buxton. Buxton are an interesting team because they're a good team on their day and can certainly have a potential outside chance in the playoffs. But South Shields do turn up from time to time. Bit too inconsistent, I'd say, but I could see them feasibly getting somewhere around about 11th come the end of the season. 2-0 to South Shields here. A bit of an upset. Hope I'm wrong. Chester are playing against Kidderminster Harriers. Chester, top of the league, although they did lose their last game against Kidderminster Harriers, 8 points behind them, who are still in the playoffs. I think Kidderminster Harriers will be wanting to make sure they stay in the playoffs at least, giving them a chance of promotion. Chester will be desperate not to slip up any further because there's only 1 point ahead of Scunthorpe now. I'm going to go with 2-0 to Chester at Aviva Stadium. I think could see them. They're definitely good for their money right now. They have had spent a lot of money in terms of budget-wise to make this squad as good as it is. So they'd probably be wanting it to pay off. Chorley v Brackley. 3rd place Brackley versus 5th place Chorley. Chorley is doing a great run of form at the moment. Not lost in a very long time. Going forward, looking bright. defensively, they're all right as well. Yeah, I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. It's hard to pick a winner between these two. Leamington versus Warrington Town. Hugely important game for Warrington if I want to avoid relegations against Leamington, who will probably finish mid-table. If you look at it, they've won 3 and lost 3 in the last 6 games. They're a very much hit and miss team. So yeah, I would not be surprised to see them ending up in that mid-table battle. But it does provide Warrington, who haven't had a win in an absolute age, because they are only 1 win away from safety. Let's not mess around here. But I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw here. Marine versus Rushall Olympic, an even more high-profile caliber game, to be fair. 21st versus 24th. It's got huge ramifications for it, this one. I don't see it going either way, though. I'm going to go with 2-2 draw. Not the result that either team would be particularly wanting it coming into this. Rushall finally getting back into things after a bit of a poor start to the season, having shipped 64 goals as well. Not ideal. Needham Market are hosting Hereford. And Needham Market looking like the team at the moment who are going to just potentially evade relegation. And I mean, when we were looking at the first half of the season, they looked like they were destined to go down. They were woeful. They're hosting Hereford, who are 3 points from the playoffs. But I think Needham Market will win this one. I think they've got enough in them. 1-0 to Needham Market. Peterborough Sports are hosting Oxford City. Peterborough Sports in mid-table in 13th. They'll end up the season in mid-table, guaranteed. There's not much going on at that club at the moment in terms of they've won 3, lost 3 of the last 6 games. It's hit and miss again. They're up against Oxford, who are in 18th. I'm going to go with a 3-1 Peterborough Sports win here at home. Scunthorpe United versus Curzon Ashton. Curzon Ashton at the start of the season were absolutely flying. They're now in 7th. Still decent chance that they reach the playoffs, but they've had a bit of a wobble at a mid-season point, and they've seemed to have recovered a bit well from that. We're up against a very difficult opportunity today, up against Scunthorpe United, who are 1 point off the title spot, the automatic promotion spot. And Scunthorpe have won the last 4 and then drawn the one before that. They're on a good run of form. I actually think Curzon Ashton could stop this. 1-0 to Curzon Ashton. Spennymoor Town versus Radcliffe. Spennymoor at home here. They're definitely a team that, if they get a bit more consistency, could make a late run for the playoffs. But I think they're a bit of an inconsistent team, Spennymoor. But definitely, for me, top half potential team. They're up against Radcliffe, which could probably, they just managed to clear themselves and claw themselves out of that relegation zone. They're 3 points clear now. Will they suddenly get a bit of a sit back here? 4-2 to Spennymoor. You can't afford to sit back in any opportunity. On to the National League South tonight. We've got Chippenham Town versus Chesham United. Chippenham bit hit and miss throughout this season, to be honest. As I said, very mid-table team, and they'll probably finish around about that. They're up against Chesham, who are also quite a mid-table team this season, which I think for Chesham, they'll probably take it. Recently getting promoted to this level gives them something to build on for next season, doesn't it? 3-1 to Chippenham here. I am going to go home advantage. Just feel like it's a slightly better team is Chippenham in terms of knowing how to keep games close. I don't know. It could go either way. Dorking Wanderers versus Tunbridge Angels. There's a bit of a curse, allegedly, in the National League South, which now everyone's suddenly talking about. I've been talking about it on this channel for about the last 3 months about how exciting this title race is. Anyway, whoever ends up in the title positions suddenly goes on to bottle a fair few games and then drop down, but not too much. They still maintain the pressure. But you look at it, teams that looked like they were going to get the title at various points of the season. Hempstead were the early riders. They're in 15th. Farnborough in 13th. And you now look at it now, you've got Eastbourne, dropped down to 6th. Maidstone have dropped down to 4th. Torquay have dropped down to 5th. It's really wide open, to be honest, because I do think Dorking will lose this one, because I think Tunbridge Angels a bit too far out to even be playoff considered. But 3-1 Tunbridge Angels, we're going to go with a curse. Eastbourne Borough hosting Hampton and Richmond Borough. If Hampton and Richmond want to get to playoffs, which I think is a bit of a tall order now. A few weeks ago I said they had a chance, but I think they've bottled too many games to be able to do that. And Eastbourne Borough will be wanting to end up in the title position. 1-0 to Eastbourne here at Priory Lane. It'll be a close game. Enfield Town versus Welling United. Cross London battle. 20th versus 21st. If Enfield win this, there is a very real chance that Welling get relegated and Enfield pull off a great escape. Having looked dead and buried for so much of this season. I am going to go Welling to win 1-0, however. Not really the one with a storyline which people will be wanting to hear. But you look at it and it's just Enfield are the better team at the moment on form. But over the course of the season have just been, they just can't score. That's part of their issue. Hornchurch versus Boreham Wood. Hornchurch will end up mid-table, mark my words. They've not lost in the last 3 games. It's a difficult challenge, though, against Boreham Wood. Although Boreham Wood have been inconsistent of late, they're having a bit of a rock themselves. Over a 1-1 draw, the opportunity for Hornchurch to get a point at Boreham Wood is nevertheless a good time for the season is now. Maidstone United are hosting Aveley. Maidstone will be heavy favourites for this one, I imagine. Aveley lost the last 3 games on the bounce. I think they're going to lose this one. 2-1 to Maidstone. Then Albans City versus Slough Town. Slough, they've dropped down to 14th. They'll be mid-table come the end of the season. I'm fairly confident in saying that. They're up against a St Albans team who have drawn the last 5 games in a row, which just meant that if some of them draws were wins, we could really be talking about a potential to evade relegation. I think they will convert those rude opportunities into a win in this one, though. 3-2 to St Albans. Do they dare to dream that a great escape is on? Truro City are hosting Farnborough. Farnborough are really, really out of sorts, and they're a bit in free fall at the moment. They've only won 1 and drawn 1 in the last 6 games. They're a team which aren't looking very comfortable at the moment, and it's at Truro's ground, which is a nightmare to get to for most areas of the country. We're going to go Truro to win this one with their outside shout of a title. They'll need to win this one if they want to do that. 3-1 to Truro City. Weston-super-Mare are hosting Salisbury. They are only 2 points off the playoffs. So we can't discount Weston-super-Mare in this particular conversation. They're up against Salisbury. A bit of an out of sorts team at the moment, Salisbury. They are 6 points clear of a relegation zone. I don't think they're as bad as the bottom 5 teams of the division at the moment to even warrant being relegated. So yeah, I don't think they'll get relegated, but I don't think they'll win this one either. 3-1 to Weston-super-Mare. Weymouth are hosting Bath City. I think Bath will absolutely batter Weymouth, to be honest. They're going down. They're definitely going down. Bath will win this one fairly comfortably. 5-1 to Bath at the Bob Lucas Stadium. Worthing are hosting Torquay, and I think Worthing, they're the informed team in the division right now. They have not lost a game in a long time. There's a good opportunity for Worthing to get themselves into a title. And they were actually probably not predicted anywhere near to be title favourites come the start of the season. They were considered lucky to get playoff. Their manager, Adam Hinshelwood, went to York, took a couple of the best players that Worthing had with him. Worthing have done an absolute great job. They picked this manager up from Hastings in the tier below, who has worked absolute wonders this season. We're going to go Worthing to win this one. Torquay were a bit wobbly and shaky at the moment. 5-1 to Worthing. They've got to capitalise on this opportunity. Merseyside Derby is on tomorrow. David Moyes taking charge for his first Merseyside Derby since he was last time at the club all them years ago, and he knows how important this game is for the Scousers, and he knows that there's an opportunity here. I know Liverpool haven't been a bad team this season. They have only lost once in the Premier League. But we saw over the weekend that they can lose in unexpected manners against Plymouth. Is that going to shock them? Everton have won the last 3 on the bounce, and I'm going to go with them winning again. It's the last one, by the way. They confirmed last one at Goodison. So it means a lot. 2-0 to Everton. Bristol City versus Stoke City tomorrow. Stoke, as ever, having one of their really, really shockingly underperforming seasons in 18th. Bristol City only 3 points off the playoffs themselves. I don't see, out of all the teams at the moment, I think Bristol City are the ones which are Bristol City and Watford and Sheffield Wednesday will all definitely, I think from Bristol City downwards, none of them teams are likely to actually get into the playoffs come the end of it. Bristol City are always like this, it seems. 3-2 to Stoke here. I think there's just something about me which can't see beyond Stoke managing to climb out of the relegation battle, which they are in. They're only 4 points clear of relegation zone. Burnley are hosting Hull. I'm hoping for this sake that Burnley absolutely batter them. I don't think that's going to happen. I actually think it's going to be a 1-1 draw, which is not great for a Derby fan, but there's been a lot of draws of late at Burnley. They're the draw specialists of this season, by the way. 13 draws. Only West Brom have more, and Preston have equaled it. So it's just they've converted a few more than draws to wins overall. 1-1 draw here. Don't think Hull would mind that. Plymouth Argyle are hosting Millwall. They're going to be ecstatic off that FA Cup bounce that they have. However, you must say that Millwall are a difficult team. They've won the last 3, unbeaten in the last 4. Certainly a team which you wouldn't want to mess around with. They're definitely probably going to end up top half come the end of the season. I think that's fair to say. 2-0 to Millwall here. Same old for Plymouth. Sunderland are hosting Luton. I think you look at Sunderland, probably a bit too much for a title race. They're 5 points off, but they're a good team coming into. They'll definitely get playoffs come the end of it. And they're up against a very, very poor Luton team. Only Derby County being worse at the moment. Come on, Derby. Make something work. Anyway, I'm going to go with this one. 2-1 to the Black Cats at the Stadium of Light. Swansea City are hosting Sheffield Wednesday. Swansea in the 16th. They're on a bit of a bad run of form themselves, having lost 4 out of the last 5 games. Although they did win their last game, so this could well be a turning point. I reckon it probably is, actually. Against Sheffield Wednesday, an equally mid-table team at the moment. They're only 3 points off the playoffs, but we all know that they're not going to be able to get there. Let's be realistic. Although a playoff of Sheffield Wednesday versus Sheffield United would be absolutely tasty, wouldn't it? I'm thinking 3-0 to Swansea here. I think if you look at it, I think they're going to get back to winning ways. That win last time out up against Bristol City in the local rivalry was huge for them. Sheffield United versus Middlesbrough. Another Sheffield team I think are going to bottle this is Sheffield United. They have proven already that they do have a bottle in them, having lost 5 times already in what is meant to be a title race. Luckily for them, Leeds isn't ripping ahead, but Middlesbrough is a difficult game, and they're only 1 point off the playoffs. They're going to be 100% gunning for that. So 3-1 to Middlesbrough. West Bromwich versus Blackburn Rovers, 5th versus 6th, but we all know that Blackburn are probably not going to be with their manager by this stage, and West Brom very much likely to win this as a result. 4-1 to West Brom. This is probably when we see Blackburn starting to fall off a bit. They've been overperforming, I think, this season so far, regardless to even be in the playoffs. And John Eustace can have a large say into the reason why that is. On Thursday, they've got this ridiculous things now, starting playing lower league games on the Thursday. Don't know why. Port Vale versus Notts County. Both of these teams are fairly good this season. Notts County, most informed team in the division, I believe. 2-2 here. It's going to be a close game. Brighton and Hove Albion versus Chelsea in a replay at the exact same place in the Amex as it was literally last week, or this weekend just gone, but it will be by that stage about a week ago. 2-1 to Brighton here. They know they've now got Chelsea's number and they know how to beat them. Queen's Park Rangers versus Derby is also on the Friday. I'm hoping Derby win this one, but QPR are a good team at the moment. We're going to go 1-0 to QPR. Leicester City versus Arsenal. I think Arsenal will fairly comfortably win this one. You'd imagine they should do if they're wanting to. They're 6 points off the title. It's probably a bit too much to really ask at the moment, isn't it? Leicester in relegation zone. So yeah, we're going to go with I'm going to go narrow 1-0 win for Arsenal. They do not leave it for comfortable viewing at times. Aston Villa versus Ipswich Town. Aston Villa in 8th, all the way down in 19th is Ipswich, who have lost the last 4 games. I mean, I think if they do lose this one, we've got to start questioning the manager. Is he the right one to keep them up in the Premier League? I like McKenna and like him a lot. But, I mean, it would be naive, I think, not to get rid of McKenna if you want to stay in the league. You're only 3 points behind Wolves. So if they lose this one, because this is definitely an opportunity, Villa are not quite mid-table, but I reckon they'll probably drop off. I don't think they'll be as... I think they'll probably drop behind Fulham and probably finish the season around about that 9th place mark. Yeah, definite opportunity. I think Villa will win this one. 2-1 to Aston Villa. Huge opportunity for Ipswich. But if Villa do win this, they are going to be right back into a potential European fight. So it's hard to see at that stage of the table. Fulham are hosting Nottingham Forest, and we're going to go big for Fulham because I've predicted 2 losses for Derby this week and already for Forest to win one. So we're going to go 5-0 to Fulham. Get wrecked. We hate you, Forest. Yeah, we're going to get Fulham fighting up at the top end of the table. Manchester City versus Newcastle United, rather. 56th, both on 41 points. Both got a goal difference of 13. Both of them been pretty good recently. It's hard to see which way this is going. I'm going to go home advantage. 2-0 to Man City, rather. But I do hope Newcastle win this, because that would mean that Man City drop out of the Europa League position at the expense of Newcastle. Although, I believe if Liverpool win the EFL Cup, then sixth place gets the Conference League. And then if any of the top five win the FA Cup, then the sixth place goes to Europa League. I believe that's how it is. So it's unless Newcastle win the EFL Cup, which they do have a chance, but you'd probably more than likely expect Liverpool to win this. If Newcastle do win the EFL Cup, they'll be guaranteed Conference League football, which should be good because I reckon there's a good chance that they can actually win the Conference League. Southampton versus AFC Bournemouth in the South Coast Derby. Bournemouth, though, vast qualities ahead. 1 point of that fifth place Europa League guaranteed finish. Southampton did pick up a win in their last game, but it was against fellow relegation battlers. I believe it was Ipswich, wasn't it? And they lost against Burnley in the FA Cup. So let's be honest, they're down. The question now remains is just whether they're going to be able to beat Derby's record. I know 1-0 to Bournemouth here. Fairly routine win for the Cherries. West Ham United versus Brentford. Cross London rivalry. 15th versus 11th. I do think West Ham will win this one. I can't tell you exactly why. Brentford will finish mid-table. That's a guarantee. That's the only team I can guarantee you will finish mid-table this season is Brentford. 4-2 for West Ham United, who are going to climb up and potentially have the opportunity to overtake, if there's a draw, the goal difference ain't going to be enough, is it? But there's a potential if Manchester United lose to overtake them. But they could overtake either Tottenham Hotspur or Man United if results go their way. Crystal Palace are playing against Everton. Everton is 16th, Palace in 12th. But Everton on a good run of form. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw here. Don't think that's a bad result for Everton. They'll stay up this season. Cardiff City versus Bristol City are a rivalry. What a game this is. I think it's called the Severn Estuary Derby. I can't be entirely sure. Bristol City in 9th. They'll be wanting to get the playoffs themselves. Cardiff in 19th. This is a huge game, let's be honest. 2-0 to Cardiff. I'm going to home advantage, and I think that's the reason why. Oxford United versus Portsmouth, two teams who were playing League One football last season and both been promoted. Going to be a close, cagey game, a 2-2 draw. Preston North End versus Burnley in a Lancashire derby. This one is a huge game, which I think people will be excited to see. I think both of these teams draw an incredible amount of games. A 1-1 draw here at Deepdale. I think Preston might take that. Blackburn Rovers versus Plymouth Argyle. I know Blackburn, I think, will probably drop off, but I don't think they'll be lose against Plymouth. 1-1 draw here at Ewood Park. Hull City versus Norwich City. Norwich are a team on the outside of the playoffs. Hull, potential danger to get into a relegation zone. 2-1 to Norwich, I'm going with. Help Derby out. Sheffield United are playing against Luton. I think Sheffield United comfortably win this one. Luton in relegation zone. 3-1 to Sheffield United. Middlesbrough are hosting Watford. Middlesbrough want to get playoffs, but so do Watford. Both of these teams are into playoffs potentials. But I think Middlesbrough got a bit more quality, and it is at the other side. 3-1 Middlesbrough. We got Millwall hosting at the Den, West Bromwich Albion. West Brom will be wanting playoffs. Millwall probably content with the mid-table, but have an outside shout. 1-1. We're going to 1-1 draw here. It seems to be taking lots of draws at the moment. Sheffield Wednesday are up against Coventry City. Two quite mid-table teams this season. We're going to go with a predictable 1-1 draw for this one. Stoke City versus Swansea City. That's right. Third one of a bounce, a 1-1 draw. You look at both of these teams, and Swansea not on the greatest run of form. Stoke on a potential to. They've drawn like loads of games in the last. They've drawn 4 games in the last 6. Like, let's be realistic here. Cambridge United versus Exeter City. Cambridge late surge to safety? Question mark. I'm not entirely sure if they'll be able to fulfill the dream, but the dream can become a reality. It's up against Exeter, who are the worst team in the division at the moment. 2-0 to Cambridge United. They're at home at the Abbey Stadium as well. That would be an impressive week for Cambridge if both of these predictions come off. Northampton Town versus Wrexham. I think Northampton will absolutely scrap a point out of this one. Wrexham have looked shaky of late. 0-0 draw here at Sixfields. Barnsley versus Huddersfield. Both of these teams look really shaky now. There are various points of this season where you could probably say both would have a heavy argument for playoffs. Huddersfield still in 5th. Barnsley now in 10th, probably looking to drift towards mid-table, to be honest. I'm going to go with 1-1 draw. And it is a Yorkshire derby as well. Not the most major one, but it is still a Yorkshire derby. Birmingham City versus Charlton Athletic. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Charlton are good value for money at the moment. And I reckon they could get something from St Andrews here. Blackpool versus Mansfield Town. Blackpool in 13th. They're doing all right. They get a fair few draws. They've got 12 draws this season, so you could probably anticipate. I think Mansfield may stop the rot at this point. It's 13th versus 14th as I'm recording. 1-1 draw. Bristol Rovers are playing against Burton Albion in a huge relegation 6-pointer. There's 5 points between these two. I think Burton Albion will win this one. They're on a stonkingly great run of form at the moment. 2-1 to Burton Albion. I think there's a good chance for Burton pull it off again. They have it in their DNA. They just do. Wycombe Wanderers versus Crawley Town. I think this is going to be a step too far for Crawley to be able to make in terms of for their hopes of survival, because Wycombe are a decent team. 3-2 to Wycombe here. Leyton Orient versus Lincoln City. I think Leyton Orient will be happy with their season regardless, but I think Lincoln might just edge this one. I'm going to go with 1-0 to Lincoln City. Reading are hosting Rotherham, and Reading will be wanting to get the playoffs and probably view this as quite a good opportunity, and I would agree with them. I'm going to go 2-1 to Reading. Adam Majewski. I can just see them potentially still getting playoff football. Shrewsbury Town versus Bolton Wanderers. Another team that will be wanting playoffs is Bolton, and this is a huge chance for them to be able to do that. Up against Shrewsbury, although Shrewsbury will be wanting from the Grey Escape. 2-0 to Bolton. Stevenage versus Peterborough United. I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw here. I think both of these teams are around about the same ability at the moment. Stevenage just marginally better. The table have them 10 points apart, but yeah, I think Peterborough do have ability in their squad. Wigan Athletic are hosting Stockport County in another one of them Manchester derbies that isn't really the main ones which are talked about. 16th placed Wigan versus Stockport County in 4th. I do think Wigan get this home advantage of the DW. 2-0 to Wigan Athletic. AFC Wimbledon are hosting Salford City. I think Wimbledon slightly edge this one out on Saturday. Margins. This game is going to be win on the finest of margins. 1-0 to AFC Wimbledon. Doncaster Rovers are hosting Grimsby Town. This is a bit of a local rivalry, isn't it? I'd say they're not in the same county, but they're not far from each other. And both are really depressing northern towns, to be honest. I think Doncaster will slightly win the shithole derby. 1-0 Doncaster Rovers. Bromley are hosting Fleetwood Town in a mid-table battle. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw here. Both of these on 39 points. Both of these will get a point. Not much separate them two. Carlisle versus Colchester. Colchester on a fantastic run of form, which is definitely not talked about anywhere near as much. They've managed to take themselves from definitely looking to one, though. I think at home at Brunton Park, 1-0 to Carlisle United. Cheltenham Town versus Barrow. I think Cheltenham have been very mixed as of Barrow. I think Barrow's been slightly poorer, but I think Barrow will win this one. 2-0 to the Bluebirds. Gillingham versus Crewe Alexandra. We're going to go with a 0-0 draw here. Can Gillingham ever actually stop this rot? We'll see. Give a good opportunity against Crewe, who are approaching a bit of a rocky territory in their hunt for the playoffs. Harrogate Town versus Swindon Town. Swindon have done the most informed team in the division, apart from Notts County, to be honest. This is a hugely interesting game because Swindon have managed to take themselves from like 21st or 15th, which doesn't sound that impressive, but it is if you actually look at how well they've been at late. I think Harrogate could grind a point, though. We're going to go with a 1-1 draw here. It is at Harrogate's ground. Morecambe versus Accrington Stanley. Morecambe are potentially going to be relegated, but they're against Accrington Stanley. This is a huge opportunity. I think this can't be overstated. If Morecambe win this, they could stay up this season. We're going with a 1-1 draw. I don't think it'll quite happen. It is a Lancashire derby as well. It'll be a scrappy, rotten game. And I'm actually, at this stage of the season, going to say it. Tranmere Rovers is going to finish bottom of the league. And I think Morecambe will just stay up. I think both Tranmere and Carlisle are the two teams to go down. Both aren't scoring enough. That's simply the reason why. That if it was a 3 down, 3 up, we wouldn't even really be having this conversation, to be honest. Newport County versus Bradford City, and Bradford to win this one fairly comfortably. Newport are on an all right run of form, but Bradford are just so much streaks above at the moment. 4-1 to Bradford City. Tranmere Rovers, I think, will lose to MK Dons here. I think MK Dons, although on a poor run of form themselves, won't succumb to Tranmere here. 2-1. Walsall, I think they're going to get back to winning ways in midweek, and I reckon they're going to marginally win this one against Chesterfield, but it could really go over their way. 1-0 to Walsall. Barnet versus Solihull Moors. I think Barnet bottle this quite spectacularly. I think you can't ever sleep on Solihull Moors, a team which is in a great position to potentially get into the playoffs. And I know they've not been great recently, especially in comparison to Barnet, which is the best team in the league at this moment in time. The table shows that. The form table shows that. But 4-0 to Solihull Moors. I just think half an eye off the ball, an off day, if you will, Solihull will capitalise. I think Braintree potentially. I mean, there's a lot of draws in Forest Green Rovers' squad. There's 11 draws so far this season, which is that's the same amount of Whaleston. And Whaleston in relegation though. It's just what they've managed to do with the draws is slightly different. But I think Braintree you can never write off on a great run of form. 1-1 draw here at Cressing Road. Eastleigh are hosting Aldershot Town in a Hampshire derby. Both of these teams aren't actually that far away from each other. Eastleigh, very mid-table, and Aldershot have drawn 5 of their last 6 games. Like, what is going on at Aldershot? We're going to go with a predictable 2-2 draw here. Ebbsfleet United are hosting York City. I think York will lose this one. I think Ebbsfleet have only won once all season, but this is the time that they're going to win. 4-1 to Ebbsfleet. I can't explain it, but sometimes these really, really weird, almost borderline absurd games happen where a team who's bottom of the league can defeat a promotion chasing team. AFC Fylde versus Dagenham and Redbridge. Fylde in 21st. Yeah, probably could get survival, but I don't think they will. I think the team which will stay up is Wealdstone if they just stop losing and drawing games and start winning them again. I think Fylde will probably potentially even drop down to 23rd. I think Boston have a potential chance to overtake them if they continue doing all right. But we're up against Dagenham and Redbridge in this one, who will finish mid-table. Particularly a 1-1 draw here. I think Altrincham will beat Gateshead. I was here at this game, at this precise I think it was last season when this happened, this game, and I saw it and I saw Gateshead capitulate, and I could feasibly see this happening again. 2-0 to Altrincham. They're certainly a team at the moment who will look good for their money to be on playoffs. SC Halifax Town versus Boston. We'll continue with the upsets. Why not? We seem to have predicted a lot already. We're going a 0-0 draw here. Boston have picked up 4 points from the last 2 games. If they can continue that form, it would help immensely in their late surge for trying survival. They're 9 points away from survival. It's going to be difficult, but they do have 2 games on hand on both Maidenhead and Fylde. Win them suddenly massively opens the door to potentially surviving this season. Never write off a team until it's too late. Hartlepool are hosting Maidenhead. I think Hartlepool do win this one though. No, we've had a lot of upsets, but I think Hartlepool win this one. 3-1 to the Pools. Oldham Athletic versus Sutton United. I think Sutton will win this one. Outside chance in playoffs. Oldham won't have much to play for at that point. 3-1 Sutton. Southend United versus Rochdale. I think Rochdale desperately want to get into the playoffs. 2-1 to Rochdale. On to Woking versus Tamworth. We're going to go a 2-2 draw here. It's 15th versus 18th. There's not a lot in between the two teams. But yeah. Yeovil Town versus Wealdstone. We'll go with a 0-0 draw. Yeovil on a poor run of form. They've not won in a long time. There's at one point they look like they'll get on the playoffs and then boom, down into mid-table. And I could feasibly see them probably finish below Eastleigh. Dagenham Redbridge start scoring, like winning games, potentially. I think Tamworth's defence is too bad for flow below that. But yeah, I don't think they'll be lower than 15th this season, to be honest, Yeovil. I can't see that really happening. I'm going to go 0-0 draw. I think Wealdstone are a team who could probably stay up this season. Alfreton Town versus Kidderminster Harriers. We're going to back Kidderminster for a win here. 1-0. Very narrow, but I think Alfreton rather, have knocked themselves out of the running for the playoffs. The team who's not knocked themselves out of the playoffs in Derbyshire is Buxton. And I'm going to go Buxton to win 3-0 against Radcliffe, who could end up getting back into a relegation zone. Chester versus Rushall. I think Chester are going to have an off day. I do. The reason I say this is you look at it, Chester will probably come in thinking, Rushall in relegation zone, relatively easy win. Rushall on an easy win. We're going to go 1-0 to Rushall, a scrapping of a win. I would love, out of all the teams who are in relegation zone, the team I would want to get out relegation zone the most and stay up is Rushall. I am quite a fan of the Black Country. I've got a lot of family there, so it'd be quite nice to see them staying up. Do I see it happening? No. I see Farsley finishing bottom and then Rushall in 23rd. I think Marine will also be relegated in 22nd. I can't see much between Warrington and Needham Market at the moment. It could go either way. Both have very stark issues. Warrington can't score. Needham can't defend. So at the end of the day, it'll be between them two for me, whoever stays up. Chorley are hosting South Shields. I think Chorley won this one. 2-1 Chorley, but for the Magpies. Kings Lynn Town versus Hereford. I'm going to go a 2-2 draw. Hereford on a bad team, and neither are Kings Lynn. There's 6 points separating the two. Feel like Kings Lynn keep games quite tight, don't they? So yeah. Leamington versus Farsley. Farsley are in a farce of a club at the moment. Have they lost their manager as well? Did I make that up? I could have made this up completely, but yeah. So Redfern has quit as manager after just 20 days and losing 6-1 to Needham Market. Let's be honest, this team is washed. Absolutely. I don't know who they're even gonna. It's in an absolute crisis at the moment. They're in an absolute free fall. I don't know what's going on. Leamington to win this one 4-0. If you're a Farsley fan, I feel so bad for you. You probably don't go to games, and to be honest, I won't blame you. Marine versus Brackley Town. I'm going to back Brackley for the win in this one. Marine are pretty dead and buried at the moment, and Brackley are a good team with half an eye on a title. They're 3 points behind it. 1-0 to Brackley. Needham Market versus Oxford City. I am going to back Oxford City for a win in this one. 3-0. I think Oxford City have done enough to stay up. Peterborough Sports versus Curzon Ashton. I'm going to go with 1-1 draw here. Peterborough Sports aren't a bad team. They're doing all right this season. I can see them potentially slipping behind South Shields, but not much beyond that. I mean, let's be honest, 14th is about predictable where Peterborough Sports will be. On to Scunthorpe versus Scarborough. I'm going to go Scunthorpe to win heavy for this one. 4-1 Scunthorpe. It's not really a surprise, which will probably see them go top of the league. Southport versus Darlington. 2-0 Southport. I know they've not been great recently, but they just come out with strange results, Southport. They do. Spennymoor are hosting Warrington. I'm going to Spennymoor to win this one 2-0. Warrington are probably going to be relegated. Let's be honest. They're the worst team in the league at the moment. And I think Spennymoor will capitalise on that opportunity to win 2-0. On National League South, got Aveley versus Western Supermare. I'm going to go a bit of a shock win here. 2-0 for Aveley. They are a team who I think have a huge opportunity to avoid relegation. You look at it. I think the team which will avoid relegation is St Albans City. I just think they've got a better defence than everyone else, and sometimes that is more important. They're only drawing games at the moment, and they could turn around and win it. Aveley, I think, will finish second from bottom. I think. Actually, no, I think Aveley will finish bottom. Actually, I can see Weymouth potentially overtaking them. Then I think Welling will get dragged in as well. No, Enfield Town, is an interesting one. They could potentially finish bottom. I'm not sure, but 2-0 for Aveley for here, which will improve their survival hopes, but it's a bit too little, too late for them, to be honest. Bath City versus St Albans. Bath to win 3-1. They've managed to clear themselves from any trouble being in a relegation battle. I reckon Salisbury will overtake them coming into the season, but they're probably going to be better than Hemel Hempstead because I think Hemel Hempstead will tumble a bit further still. Boreham Wood versus Eastbourne Borough. I'm going to back Wood here. Boreham Wood 1-0. back to winning ways for Bournemouth. It's going to be really interesting this title race. Can't call it. Chesham versus Enfield. I'm going to go Chesham 4-3 winners. Very close competitive game, but Chesham are good team at the moment. Farnborough v Weymouth. We're going to have 1-1 draw. Farnborough are far from good at the moment. And I can see that happening. Hampton Richmond Borough, they're going to beat Chippenham 2-1. They'll be the team which they'll finish like 8th. Actually, I kind of semi-back them to end up in the playoffs because I just feel like there's one team, maybe it's Eastbourne, just one of the teams which will bomb out of it unexpectedly, and I think Hampton Richmond Borough may take that spot to replace it. But I'm not too sure about that one. Howard Hempstead Town versus Maidstone. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. Maidstone are looking a bit rocky. Howard Hempstead aren't looking too bad at the moment. Salisbury versus Chelmsford City. We're going to go 2-0 Salisbury. Chelmsford, very mid-table. They'll probably be better than Tunbridge Angels, but that's about it. They'll probably finish the season in about 10th, which is probably an underwhelming season for Chelmsford. Slough Town versus Worthing. I'm going to Worthing to win this one 4-1. I think by the end of this week, we're going to see Worthing top of the league. But that will change again at some other point. Tunbridge Angels versus Truro. We're going to Tunbridge Angels to win this one. It's going to be a very close marginal game. 2-1 Tunbridge Angels. Torquay United versus Hornchurch. I see Hornchurch winning this. Torquay seem to be now slightly bottling it. Hornchurch to win this one. 2-1. Welling are going to be battered by Dorking 4-0. I think Welling are going to be relegated. I think a team will overtake them. Liverpool continue their good, impressive form in the league. 2-0 overcoming Wolves. Pretty basic. Tottenham Hotspur versus Manchester United in a bottom half game. For some reason, this is on TV on a Super Sunday. Both of these teams are absolutely dire right now. 4-3 to Tottenham. I think Postecoglou needs it more. But both of these teams are rubbish. And Leeds versus Sunderland in a potential title decider is going to be a predictable, boring 0-0 draw. Thank you very much for watching. Please leave your predictions down below. Please subscribe if you're new around here. Thanks for the support recently. Done 2 long live watch-alongs and another long video here. So I'm tired. I need to get a drink. But I'll catch you all in the next one.